Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. It's February 4th. Actually, that's a very important day in my life, but I won't go into it now. And I'm with Adam Some. Uh, you got to shoot me the correct pronunciation. I've been calling you Adam since August. And this is really kind of. I just mentioned to Adam that we first kind of met and chatted back in August. So this interview has taken some time to put together. It's because Adam is way busier than me, and he's a senior at Rutgers University Business School, and he's involved in so many different things, which we're going to talk about, primarily Kampus Group, which is a phenomenal concept, which is alive and well. I just spent time before we went on air at the website. It's like, wow. And I think Adam is a wow. And at some point we'll bring some Campus Group people in here to talk. But Adam's journey has been so incredible. I mean, really incredible for me to watch this and to see what you're doing with Campus Group. Notwithstanding, we share the same alma mater, but that's notwithstanding. But so I'm really gratified that we started in August and now February we're doing our thing here. So this has been my monologue, so to speak, like one of my favorite late night TV hosts. So my monologue is done, and let's jump in. And Adam, how about just a little bio, a little history of yourself, even though you're only a senior? And I said this, by the way, I said this before we went on air. We've Zoomed a whole bunch of different times, and each time I walk away, my takeaway from Adam is, and I said this to him in the most complimentary way, that I kind of feel that he's 40 or 50 years old, and that's a great compliment. So I'm done. Take it away, Adam.
Thank you so much. And also, I want to say I'm also super appreciative that we had the opportunity to connect in August. Like this entire process, just getting to know you, getting to know each other, it's been awesome. Yeah, I know you gave the whole spiel about the being, I guess, beyond my age in terms of wisdom, but I guess that makes me only a little bit older than you, right?
Kind of hard.
At least in terms of how you, at least in terms of how you're looking, right? So, but thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. So, but yeah, my name is Adam. I'm 21 years old. I'm from up in North Jersey, but I decided to make the big move of coming to Rutgers University, and I love my state school. I love this state, and currently in the business school, like you said, I'm pursuing finance and business analytics and information technology, which is a really long major. We like to shorten that to a little acronym called BAIT. So whenever someone says they're a BAIT major, you know what they mean now.
Okay.
So it's I really like learning. I think you know this. I love the opportunity to learn. I kind of took that philosophy. I know you got the chance to look at my LinkedIn, and I know that my bio talks about my story with the instruments and how I went from one instrument to another just because I really want to learn. Well, I mean that's all true in terms of the mentality that I have. I really do feel like there's a need to find harmony in music. There's a need to find harmony in your education, and more importantly, how to elevate that, take that to some extent where you can apply it into the real world. And so with the music, that's obviously been enjoying it, playing it for others. And then in terms of stuff that I'm learning in school, it's about taking those tidbits of information and figuring out how can I fashion that to bring it back to the community in some way. So I feel like I always like to cover that because I feel like that kind of plants the seed in terms of why I've decided to do all the things that I've done so far. And I also want to say that, even though I've done a lot to try to explore myself, and in terms of trying to explore what I can do for those around me, I'm still learning. And like I said, I'm 21. I got a lot more time. I need to continue doing this. A lot more to learn, right? So yeah, no, I feel like that kind of summarizes.
Yeah. I mean, 21. Yes, a ton to learn. Yeah, I just want to backtrack. You did so much with music. In high school, you're self-taught in so many different instruments. And then there's an element to you that I always like, and I always look for it in all the people I interview. Even at a young age, you were giving back, and you did some kind of a concert for Sierra Leone, which many people don't know. It's one of the poorer countries in the world, in Western Africa. But you had that sense to give back then.
Yeah, 100%. It was an opportunity for me to take something that I was really passionate about and still am, right? Which is to be performing in my high school orchestra. I was playing the upright bass. If you've ever seen those, they're like those big cellos. Everyone always thinks they're a cello. I think it's hilarious. But having the opportunity to play music and know that that music is enticing people to donate money towards a really great charity that helps those people in that community is something that was really satisfying to me, even as a young person in high school, you know. So I think that type of feeling I've been searching for, you know, through a lot of the stuff I explored beyond high school and in college. So,
Okay.
you know, it definitely makes sense in terms of why I like this stuff, and that's a perfect example of something where kind of started for me.
So you're in high school. Where does all the energies? Uh, uh, I look back. I look back my own journey. That when I was about 11 years old, my mother kind of grabbed me and says, "You're going to be a pharmacist," and that was it. But so my question to you is, debate all this and the consulting and the business aspect. Where did all that begin in high school?
That's a good question. So, no, actually, I didn't know about consulting. I didn't know what consulting was until I was probably towards the end of my freshman year. When I was in high school, by the way, I was working on communication skills. I was actually a big theater kid, and before I got into that, I was super shy, really couldn't have a conversation. My goodness, I could definitely not do this. I could definitely not go on and talk to you. Um, but even people that I would talk to every day, it'd be tough for me. Something that I would get nervous about. So what I wanted to do was try to put myself in the position to be uncomfortable and expand upon my communication skills, not just with one person, but also with groups of people in public. So the theater really brought that out for me. Uh, but that definitely helped me along the way, and you'll see why in terms of the communication skills, which are really important for an important, I would say, starting point to what propelled me into this career path, which is consulting, right? So when I went to college, I was thinking I want to find the most prestigious job in business, and to me at the time that was banking. I was like, I really want to do investment banking. They make so much money. They're so cool. And that's because that's the type of culture that I was surrounded with beforehand, and thought, wow, let me try to get this. But then I realized that I didn't really understand, first of all, what banking really was all about and the price you had to pay in terms of time, in terms of work-life balance, right? You hear stories about bankers, they're working tirelessly during the week, maybe getting 3 hours of sleep at a time sometimes, and then working during the weekend. And I realized I value my time a little bit. And I don't think I can handle that. So I had a sort of crisis actually, towards the end of my freshman year, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine who actually was going into that track, but he was kind of like, I considered him as a mentor in a lot of ways, and we talked about it, and he was the one who actually said, you know, based on like what you're passionate about, based on your theater in high school, because I told him about that, you would really be good for consulting. And I was like, okay, well, what is that? Let me go check that out. You know, so I looked it up and I learned about it. And I realized in that moment when I was looking all that stuff up, that consulting is, it requires a certain personality. And because I feel like I have that personality and I wanted to go into that, that's at least why I wanted to go into the consulting aspect. But I know you also asked about the major, right? Why did I do bait? I kind of fell into it, to be honest with you. Same thing with finance. It was more of like, I wasn't really comfortable with my finance concept. I didn't really know a lot about it. It was always something that I was unfamiliar with. And same thing with the public speaking, right? I was uncomfortable with public speaking in the same way I was uncomfortable with doing finance related calculations, understanding financial concepts, you know, so I wanted to major in it because I wanted to really improve that and learn as much as I could. Same thing with bait, with the learning different types of code, different programming languages, working with data. Those are all things that I felt like I was really weak on. And for me, it's always about start point, end point, trying to get as much as possible within the 4 years that I have at school. I want to, you know, squeeze everything I can out of it. And I feel like I've done that. And I think a lot of the realization of why bait is a very useful major and why finance is useful definitely came after the fact.
Mhm.
Because beforehand it was more of like well, why not? Right?
Wow.
So just a
So
little bit
interesting.
of perspective on that.
So interesting. So we have the background of consulting, and why you went that way. By the way, a quick by the way, I was a mirror image of you, Adam. I couldn't. It wasn't. I couldn't even talk to a shadow back in when I was your age. No, zero communicative skills, zero. I mean, completely. And you know, and it's funny. I give Rutgers. And I, whenever I get a chance to write, and I get a chance to inject what Rutgers did for me, it helped. It just helped get me out of my shell, so that I went from not being able to talk to even a roommate when I had a roommate. I couldn't even talk to a roommate. To now, it's kind of hard to shut me off. That's just what happened, and I attribute it to the Rutgers world that helped bring me out. But anyway, so you are the CEO, your official title of Campus Group, with a K, Campus Group with a K. And before I even go any further, at the bottom of this screen throughout this whole interview will be sites for people to check out. And most importantly, and I mean this, what you're doing, and people are going to hear about that. Go to GoFundMe and help, because the stuff you're doing is so important, and I see it every day in my life. Small business needs so much help, and it's not there, and it could help change the world, truly world changing. So go help Campus Group. Anyway, talk about Campus Group. Let's get a whole background.
Yeah, so Campus Group with a K, like you said, it's a group of students, right? That a group of students from Rutgers, from Wisconsin, from Harvard, from Brown, different, it could be anywhere in the US, students all across the US who want to come together and get an opportunity to consult, to help out small businesses, and basically get the experience of learning how to do this type of work while also being able to make a meaningful impact. So Campus Group, yeah, it's really I would say it's a double-sided value add. I always like to use that terminology. And what I mean by that is that you're helping small business owners, but you're also helping the students, you know, who are doing that work. So a big thing about Campus Group is making sure that we educate our students to have the biggest impact on businesses, to help them solve their biggest problems and help them realize their greatest opportunities, whether it's to start a new business, to work on a problem that they're having in their existing enterprise. The types of work and the types of industries are all varied, of course, because there's a lot of different types of businesses out there. And I mean, I can elaborate on some examples if you'd like.
Yeah, I would like.
100%. Yeah. For example, without naming names, just to keep some confidentiality, so we've worked on businesses where we've even had people come in and say that it's just an idea, right? That they want to work on a business, I think, for example, that offers therapy services to people who need it. So it was a therapy business, and we came in with a business model, a strategy, ways to market it, even helped with the website development.
Wow.
Pretty much everything from the inside inner operations to the front facing work, for how they're perceived by their customers. So we've done that type of work where it's
For
really
nothing.
ground up.
For nothing. You
From
give
nothing.
for nothing. To me, it's mind-boggling. For nothing.
Yeah,
Continue.
and for a lot of these students, it's something that can seem like a big big burden, because and even for the small business owners, they're looking at this and saying, can I really trust these students to provide value? And the truth is, what we push at Campus Group is that we are not a group, and this is something that's big in consulting. We're not a group of people that know the answers. That's not the point. It's not about knowing the right answer. It's about knowing the right questions to ask and doing the work to figure out the answers. So it's about the thought process. It's about understanding the problem. So what I've noticed a lot is that students will come into this with very little experience, actually. But because of that, they're able to open their mind to the thought process of figuring out what's the real goal here that this client needs, like what do they want to achieve, and then figuring out from there, what do we need to put in place in order to get to that goal. And it could be different, completely different from what the client asked in the first place, right? Like, so it's all about the thought process, and anybody can do that, especially students. So that's the thing is I always like to include that whenever I discuss, because I get questions about it a lot, about why trust students with this. And I think people understand that when you have that flexibility to really think of all the possible angles that you can attack a situation that you'd experience in a business, a student is almost even better in some ways than having someone who's older with more experience, who may have a lot of predispositions and assumptions.
Yeah, by the way, just so you know, I've been taking some notes on you.
Hopefully good stuff.
Yeah, it is good stuff. I'm literally taking some notes. If you see me looking, I've been taking some notes. But I love what you said about the thought process. That's just great stuff. It is great stuff. I want to take a breath and just go off topic a second. You don't necessarily have to answer this. It's kind of a cute question. I like it. So here goes. Excluding family or friends, Adam, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with, and it could be one or two or none. But it's kind of provocative.
Good question. I like that a lot. I would say someone I'd want to spend the day with would probably be David Lee Roth. I'll explain, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite singers, also from one of my favorite bands, Van Halen. And I don't know, I just want to take an instrument, jam with him, play some of his songs.
Great. Yeah.
If I could do that all day, I'd be more than happy.
Okay. Great answer. He had a music video a bunch of years ago. I forgot the name of the song, but he was right up there. I mean, notoriety and I forgot the song, whatever. Great answer. So moving along, I read, and we talked about it before we went on air, Campus Group was, and people really need to know this. I think it's so key. The Campus Group was born during the pandemic because of the pandemic. Correct?
100%. Yeah, I mean, in terms of how it started, I can't take credit for starting it because that was not me. The people who started it, absolutely brilliant minds who started it, are Jordan Venglass. So he's from California. Jeremy Navarro, sorry, and Pranay Jureja, who is a Rutgers student actually, or was a Rutgers student, Rutgers alumni. And what you'll notice is that like Jordan Venglass is in California, Pranay Jureja is from New Jersey. Those are already across the country, right? The founding was among people from different parts of the country because they wanted there to be an equal opportunity to start growing this, not just from one specific area. And the idea was in spring 2020 or summer 2020, sorry. The pandemic was something that was unprecedented. A lot of small businesses were struggling, going out of business, and it was a really tough time, especially depending on the industry you're in. And so at the same time, what we also noticed for a lot of students were losing their internship opportunities because companies couldn't really afford to keep them on. So a lot of offers were canceled. So a lot of students were out of work and a lot of businesses were out of work. So, from what I understand, those three people that I named, right, they came together, they were friends, and they realized that there's an opportunity on both sides that could be satisfied here. Helping out small businesses using student talent. So a lot of the students in the beginning were students who didn't get the opportunity to get internships during that summer. Actually, in fact, you're looking at one of them right now. I was trying to find an opportunity, and that's when I actually found this group online. I think it was on LinkedIn. They were doing a post, and I happened to be friends with Pranay, who is the guy from Rutgers, and that's how I got started with it. Got involved, did some projects, and worked my way up. So it is really interesting that how this group started and what it stands for, because today, even though the pandemic is still, the situation's improving, we're still seeing that there's some lessons here that we can always, ask ourselves, what can we do better? How can we prevent this type of tragedy in the future? So yeah, it's a mission that Campus Group will always have. We're never going to forget our roots. And I think we need to come at the mentality with every project we do in the future with the thought in mind as if that we're always in a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that and because I want to think of this as tragedy creates opportunity. So let's always be in a mindset where we are constantly creating opportunity. Let's not lose sight of that.
Great thinking. Great thinking. And you know what? In some ways, we always will be in a pandemic, and that kind of thinking, it's not necessarily going to go away. So having that kind of thinking that you have is good stuff to keep in your back pocket. Are there any particular types of businesses that Campus Group works with? Is there a formula, or are you kind of open?
Yeah, so I would say we could pin it down to some areas, right? We do work with a lot of companies that create certain apps. So there's a lot of like web development types of projects, but we do also work with a lot of groups that sell products, tangible products. And for example, we worked with a small jewelry business where that jewelry business just wanted to, promote themselves more, get their brand out there more, and we came up with some really creative ways to do that.
Cool.
In terms of marketing, trying to, even changing the format of how they presented their information, to some of the charities that they support and making that really clear and known. It was also an added bonus. It's something we also like to emphasize, that this jewelry business happened to be a very large supporter of environmental awareness groups. So we do try to emphasize working with small businesses that contribute in some way to certain initiatives like that. So that's just an example of that. I know we also we've worked with human resources types of companies, and in terms of working on promotion for them. I think there was a client of ours that actually advocated for women in the workplace, and they came up with educational material to help to inform mid-sized, large businesses on how to basically work with and treat an employee, mostly female employees that have gone through domestic violence situations, stuff like that. So, all really great initiatives
Really?
that, once again, it makes you feel good that you're doing that, especially as a student. So these students are learning. They know they're doing something that's impactful. They're making good use of their time.
Yeah. Couple of things you said that resonated with me, and actually one of those was a question I wanted to ask you off topic, but you started it. So you talked about climate change, and so I'm always curious, and I do some stuff now, a lot of interviews with climate change people all over the world. And that's been a kind of a sidelight for me, and I've interviewed at least a dozen environmentalists who've written books on the environment, be it fiction or nonfiction. But and I just mentioned to you before we went on air that we're kind of focusing on this little group that we have, climate optimists, on doing a panel that involves you guys, your generation. I'm just curious. I'm always curious. I always like to do my little straw polls on how you feel about climate change. How much of an urgency is it? I'm sure you're not happy with my generation because we dumped this in your lap, but how much relevancy and poignancy and awareness is climate change in your life? Or is it maybe it's not?
No, I think it's a big thing. I think it's a big situation we have to look at. I mean, just look at the indicators, right? And regardless of how people feel, I'm not here to impose my beliefs on somebody else. It's not my job. But I do implore people to look at the indications around you, look at your environment, look what's going on. Not just in terms of like certain disasters that are happening, not just in terms of evidence suggesting one way or the other, right? I want to think in terms of the ways that people are already starting to respond. It's things like I'm trying to remember which company it was. It might have been one of the airlines. I saw like an advertisement where they made a pledge that they're going to be completely carbon neutral by 2050.
I saw that.
Right? Yeah. So it's things like that that kind of put it in perspective. Like I think the world is realizing that things need to change, and it's in terms of making sure that you understand that as a person and understand the importance of leaving behind this beautiful world for the next generation. That's something we do need to keep in mind. Um, and would we have enjoyed our lives as much if we lived in a world where we didn't have clean air, or if we didn't have clean water, we didn't have half the resources that we have today. I mean, if you answer that question thinking, uh, that's not the type of world you'd want to live in, then that's something that you have to think about in terms of the actions that you can control now for the future. So yeah, that's really my key take on it, is just look at the signs and do what you can and act based on that information.
Okay. I like I like that attitude that you have. it's a positive attitude. It's a proactive attitude. I also like the fact that Campus Group likes to focus on businesses that keep an eye on climate change. It's funny, in the group that I have, and we've got people all over the world in that group, it dawned on me that we'll be okay when there's a billion with a B, when there's a billion groups like what we have of people talking and being proactive. So when there's a billion of these groups out there, then I think we will have solved, my own personal thing, we will have solved the climate problem when there's a billion groups.
Exactly, and that's another point that I think is important to discuss, which is that, if we don't do our part, if the Campus Group doesn't do its part to help businesses have the opportunity to help the environment, or the opportunity to, voice their concern over this, that's something that's a major opportunity we'd be missing out on. So Campus Group, realizes that we can't solve the world's problems, but we can help elevate people who
Smart,
can help us and help
smart.
solve the world's problems, right? So, there's, what is it? I think what's the metric? Almost 90% of the economy is made up of small businesses, something along those lines.
I'm not sure,
Right.
but small business drives
It does. So,
us. And
so surely it drives initiatives like the one that we're talking about now.
yeah. So how can a good place to ask this, how can small businesses in every kind of way reach out and find you, and what's the process?
Sure. So, obviously, there's a couple of ways in terms of social media. So I know we have an Instagram account that you have somewhere for sure. Our website, Campus Group, the Campus Group with the K.com. And so you can find information on our website. But I would say the best way to reach out to us is to shoot us an email through our email address, which is thecampusgroup@gmail.com. Basically, just letting us know who you are, and requesting to have a quick conversation over Zoom. Usually is the way to go.
Love Zoom. I told you how I discovered it a year and a half ago. I don't ever want to talk on the phone again. That's my own personal. Why talk on the phone and not see the person you're talking to?
It's so nice seeing someone's face. So it's great.
It is just to me. I would never want to talk on the phone. I don't. I have friends, old-fashioned friends, and I said, let's Zoom. They said, oh, no, I don't want to Zoom. So I don't want to talk. I want to Zoom. How can Adam? How can students find you, get involved in this? By the way, they don't have to be only business students. They could be, they could be phys ed students. I mean, they could be art students, and really anybody with an imagination, right? How do they find you?
Absolutely, and that's a very good point. Yeah, they can be studying anything. We love the diversity of background. It's a very important thing to have in a profession where you're challenged to think out of the box. So, in terms of finding us, there's a couple of ways to do that. And the way that the program works for Campus Group, the way that the students get involved, is we have a cohort-based system. So every semester, like a college semester, we try to time it around. So it's like a period of about 10 or so weeks that the students apply, they join the group, they get assigned to a team, they get assigned to a project, and they basically, in those 10 weeks, they work on the solution, they meet with the client, and they go through the entire project. And then towards the end, they work towards a tangible deliverable, which is, be it like a PowerPoint presentation or a paper, something to show them the recommendations and a process that's easy to follow in terms of whatever it is that they want to work on. So, so basically, if a student wanted to get involved, they could apply, in the fall. We have applications in the fall, and we have applications in the spring right now, actually, that are the deadline's almost up. I think I believe the deadline is around the 15th or somewhere around the 15th. So students should go onto the website,
Mhm.
right? They should go on the website. There's a form they can fill out on the website under Join Us. And there is also the email address where they can also send an email as well. So those are the two most effective ways. And basically from there, they'd have the opportunity to talk to us, get an interview in there and potentially have a really great experience. And I think also the other thing I want to say is that students don't have to feel like they need this extensive background. It's kind of like what we talked about before. We actually want students who are brand new to this, but who are passionate to
Mhm.
learn about this, who are passionate. As long as you have the passion, that's enough to basically be a successful consultant, at least for us, because we will give you what you need to succeed, but it is up to you in order to take the effort and actually use those resources, right? It's like the horse analogy. You can lead a horse to water, but can't make it drink, right? Same idea. So we can certainly lead you there, but it's up to you
Mhm.
to take the spoils.
I can't say this enough, and I've been saying this to you since August. What you're doing is brilliant. It is so innovative. It's so needed. So needed. In my world, there's so many people I know who's gone into business and with no help because people don't know where and who and how to ask for help, and you're just putting yourself out there, and you're helping, and this collection of young minds that want to work and help and guide. It's just a brilliant concept. Actually, it's probably, I use the T word, transformative, culturally transformative to have brilliant young minds making themselves available. Uh, 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 I just think it's culturally. That's my own, and I'm not saying it because you're sitting across from me, wearing a suit coat and I'm wearing a sweatshirt, but it really is culturally transformative, this kind of thinking, this kind of proactivity to help small business, which is what keeps America running, as you said. It's just great stuff, really great stuff. And I said this to you also before we went on air, why your generation, you guys are so uh, capable of doing this, because you're getting so much input up here 24/7. And the only input I ever got in my generation, why we could have never done this, what you're doing. We had 6 black and white TV stations that went on the air at 8 and went off the air at midnight. That was my social media, if you want to call it that. So you're taking everything that you're learning your world, and you're giving back to help develop small business and guide them. Great stuff, really. Um, I'm aware that the Campus Group functions from donations, and we've got the GoFundMe. Why don't you tell people how some of that money gets used that they're going to donate from GoFundMe, which is so
Yep.
important. It's your lifeline. Money is lifeline.
I mean, you have to consider it's all pro bono. So we do not ask small businesses for a dime
Wow.
for those services, right? Because that's not what we're in business for. We're in business so that we can really help them and further their mission, their goals, but also get our students experience, like I said before. So that's really the payment, is the education. But in terms of donations, which are always appreciated, the donations are going to be used to develop the program, to develop the students. So it's going to enable us to spend money on educational programs that would normally, I know a lot of student organizations at schools, they use their funding for certain educational platforms that help students do a better job in this sort of line of work. So we want to provide that for Campus Group. And the reason why we want to use that money that way is because, if, like I said before, if the students are well versed and they understand this mentality we've been talking about earlier on, and they have the resources to contribute even further because we want to elevate the quality of our projects too. That's going to help us provide even more value to potentially even more clients. So we just want to grow our potential to help other people by investing in our human capital, our students, to help make them more informed and educated. But then also beyond that, part of expansion is making sure that we're heard and that we are out there for people to see and to take advantage of the opportunity. So to source more students and clients, we also want to use that money for outreach, for advertising,
Yes.
for things that are going to get our brand up in the ether. So that so really, because that's what it is. We need to develop ourselves internally, but we also need to make sure that people know we're available. That's the only way we're going to have a real impact here.
Correct. And I said this from day one.
Yeah, 100%. So if your viewers want that opportunity to, basically kickstart and continue to run this organization's capability to provide value to more and more businesses and educate more students as well, they can do that by going to the GoFundMe link that I think you have posted in the bio, right? So that they can go there.
Yes.
Because that every dollar is bringing us $1 closer towards bringing this world into a more strong foundation in terms of small businesses, and making sure that our economy thrives and that more people can have opportunities. Pretty much that's the basis for all this.
It's great stuff. It is great stuff. And I said this from day one, where people got to know, and people got to know what you guys are doing. And that's part of the mountain to climb, and that's what I'm doing what I can to kind of spread the word, and I'll keep on spreading the word. But people got to know what you're offering. It's like, wow. And it's funny, my observation, and I've always said this, for me, one of the saddest things I ever see, and I say this to my wife all the time, we're driving on the highway and a little restaurant, a little store, I know I saw when it opened, and 6 months later it closed. And to me, that's one of the saddest things, because I can appreciate a small business person opening up and taking their life savings and their life dreams to open a small business, and probably not with any guidance or help, just a gut feeling. But if they would have had you guys, it would have helped them immeasurably. I mean, the service that you provide, and I'm not just saying it is enormous. It's lifeblood kind of thing, and it is a matter of spreading the word. So I'll do what I can to spread the word. It's good stuff. So we're kind of winding down here, and actually we went through a whole interview, Adam, and I didn't once bring up basketball or football, which is kind of let that marinate out there in cyberspace. We don't have to talk about that. We could, but we don't have to. But I do have one last question for you. It's kind of another fun question. Here goes. Fill in the blank. Before I leave this earth, I won't be happy until I blank.
See.
You don't have to answer it either. This is just.
No, I want to answer this. I like this question. So before I leave this earth, I want to, what you said I want to blank, right?
Yeah.
So I want to teach a class.
Oh, great.
Teach a class. Maybe some point later on, I want to be, maybe go to a university and maybe as like a side thing, teach a course, like I know you did.
Yes,
right?
You bet.
Yeah. I mean, I just love having that opportunity to communicate with people and share ideas. I know people tell me a lot of the time, they say, "Oh, Adam, how come I haven't seen you give a TED talk?" I know that Rutgers does like they do these TED Talks, and I think it's, I mean, partly just really busy. That's one thing. But the other thing is, I love talking so much that I just want to make sure nobody feels that I'm, they got to get too much of my talking. But I will say for certain that if I do learn more, like I said before, I still feel like there's so much more for me to learn. And I feel like I'll get to a point later on where when I have enough valuable things to say and perspective to provide, I want the opportunity to share that with people and to see if they relate just to my story, whatever that story ends up taking the shape of, right? So, it really does go back to that whole concept of giving back.
Yeah.
And just as much as I like taking in the world and taking in the music and the harmony and the experience, I want to kind of throw it back to everyone as well. So, that's that'd be something I'd like to do.
Great answer. Great way to wind this up. I can tell you one of the greatest experiences of my life, and I wrote about it in my little manuscript there, was walking down College Avenue that first day with my attaché case, heading to my class, and the emotions. It's the journey. You reach a certain point in your life of accomplishment, of having learned, and you're ready to give back. I was finally ready to give back. I'd learned enough, done enough, and knowing I'm walking to my class, which was in the honors building, by the way. You're in the honors. Indescribable, beyond. And when I told it to my wife and son and daughter-in-law, they all got choked up, teary-eyed, because it was powerful stuff. It was almost like a Martin Luther King, Dr. King thing. I've been to the mountaintop, and having taught at Rutgers, it was the mountaintop for me. So that's a great thing that you said, to be able to teach one day. It is great. What a great way to wind this up. This has been what a way to kick off a weekend. We got a big basketball game tomorrow, I will say that. Huge game tomorrow, Michigan State, Rutgers. But I'm so thrilled we met, and we continue, and it's a great friendship and exchanging of ideas. And I'm officially welcoming you back anytime. We can just shoot the breeze and come back. And paraphrasing Clint Eastwood from one of his movies, you made my day.
Thank you. You made mine as well. It's been awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. And yes, of course, I'd love to come back.
Great.
You just let me know. Give me your calendar.
With calendars wide open, we'll talk about that, Adam. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.